After my video showing this old Mac Pro 1.1, a lot of you responded with ideas to make it even better. So here it is again. Let's see what more we can do with this machine. Could it be a gaming rig after all? Let's find out.
It's the Anarchy with me on the exciting guy!
The first one might be a bit of a bummer. Many people told me to use the OpenCore legacy patcher, so I could install a more modern version of macOS. Turns out, OpenCore doesn't like 32-bit UEFI either. The Mac Pro 1.1 and 2.1 are not supported by it. So also flashing it with the 2.1 firmware doesn't fix anything if you're not going to switch the CPUs in this thing. In the last video I installed Arch Linux and it ran fine, but more modern games wouldn't run because of the lack of Vulkan support on the video card. Did I try to install the package Vulkan Radeon? Nope. Let's see if that changes anything. Well, still no Vulkan. A reboot didn't fix that either. How about emulation? N64 works quite well using Mupen64+. GameCube and Wii didn't work at all, both in the standalone Dolphin emulator or from RetroArch. PlayStation and PSP works fine from RetroArch, but PS2 crashed as well. So I guess that's where emulation stops in this machine's default setup. I also tested PowerDraw, as some people told me that these machines are junk because they need way too much power. Well, they're not wrong. 212 watts idle, and it went over 300 watts while running SuperTux card. So, don't tell your wife, I guess. Right, let's upgrade. I first tried my old Radeon 3650. Since that card is a little younger than the original X1900, but still pretty much age appropriate. Unfortunately, still no Vulkan support. SuperTux card didn't show the old driver message anymore, but performance, seems worse than before. So not really a good upgrade, except for one thing. PowerDraw dropped under 200 watts idle and to around 217 watts in game. So I guess that X1900 is quite power hungry. Next, I figured I'd try reinstalling Arch on an SSD. I don't have a 2.5 inch to a 3.5 inch bracket, so I use this very professional method of attaching it to the Mac Pro. I also switched video cards again. This time we'll see how it does with my nVidia GTX 1050 Ti. There's a downside to using a PC graphics card though. You won't see the max equivalent of post, so good luck trying to install an OS without being able to see anything before the media boots. Also, the Cinema HD display doesn't seem to work on anything that's not a Mac, so I used my standard PC screen for this test. As you can see, Extreme Tux Racer runs great, but I didn't expect otherwise. SuperTux card seems to run well and seems to look a little better than on the old Radeon cards. But there's some hiccups every now and then. The same can be said for 1 Million Fatal Guns through Steam. It's playable and it looks great, but there's some annoying stuttering. Lowering the graphics quality to low setting didn't really fix that, so it's probably the CPU and memory being the bottleneck here. Doom 2016 had the same stutter issue. Possibly it would be a bit better with some more memory, but I didn't have any around. Interestingly, PowerDraw with this video card dropped to around 175 watts idle. Apparently I forgot to check PowerDraw in-game, but we'll get to that later because I tried it with both the original card and the 1050 Ti. This way I could still connect the Cinema HD display and actually see something in post. I used the 1050 Ti to offload any rendering jobs. Let's see how that works out. As you can see, we now have 2 GPUs. So let's tell Steam to use Prime Run in order to get graphics rendered through the nVidia card. And it works! This game didn't run at all on the Radeon, so we can be sure this is working. Might be me, but it looks like it's working even better than when I tested it on only the nVidia card. Let's try Doom 2016 again. About the same as before, but you might have noticed the big black bars as the rendering resolution is way off. Let's correct that in the game settings. Probably not the highest frame rate you've ever seen, but I'm still quite impressed. I'd say the 1050 Ti works quite well as a second card in this system. Let's set it to a lower resolution. Seems to make it way more playable. I know the card can handle this game perfectly fine at 1080p. Not sure if the frame rate will ever go up in this system, as the older PCIe slots are possibly the limiting factor in this setup. The power draw with both cards installed while idle was not that much more than with just the original card. While running Doom 2016, it went up to around 280 watts, which is still less than the original card used alone in SuperTux card. By the way, completely turned off, it still used around 5 watts, which is about as much as my mother's new mini PC was using idle, running just Windows or Linux. Right, in the first video, I struggled to install Linux Mint. Some people told me to fix grub, so I figured I'd try again. For this, I put the machine back in its original configuration. Installed Mint on another system, booted it, opened the console and tried the provided command. Right, there's no i386 EFI supplied by Mint. That's kinda the whole issue. So I googled it, clicked on the first hit, downloaded the file, extracted it and moved it to user_lib grub and tried again. Well, let's see what happens. Right. Tried again. This time I put the file in place before installing anything. Downloaded the file, extracted it, copied it to the right directory, and ran the installer. Installation finished. Checked /target, which is where the installer mounted the hard drive, and nope. No i386 EFI. So I copied the files needed by grub into /target/usr/lib/grub, crewed it into /target and tried to do the grub installation manually again. Rebooted and the screen went black. Pushed the power button after a while and noticed it took a while before it turned off, which led me to believe that there actually had been something running. Probably going to need that no mode set parameter again, but I didn't even get to see the grub menu. Booted, held down shift and voila, there's our grub menu. Let's provide some parameters. Right, total blackness again. I left it running for some 30 minutes before powering the machine off again. Maybe I should try to blacklist the Radeon and AMD GPU drivers. Blackness again. I'm done trying. At least we now know that grub works. I would advise anyone wanting to install Linux on one of these things to stick with a distro that supplies a 32-bit UEFI. You know, to keep your sanity. That's all I have for you today. I hope you liked this video. Until next time.